Hello. We got 1, 2, 3,
4.
and let us begin.
Healthcare in the United States. Most of us have seen on the news and things on TV for the past couple of years now that the healthcare system in the U.S. probably could use some changing. There's a lot of different ideas that have been brought up. Some are better than others. It's all up to interpretation. Healthcare is important, obviously, because you need medical attention. That becomes a large priority, you would imagine. When people say healthcare, a lot of people think the medical attention aspect, but in this country, it also largely pertains to the financial aspect. And that's sort of where I'm going with this, is the high cost of medical attention in this country. So currently, according to the CDC, there's 30 million Americans that are uninsured. I actually do have a photo. So that looks like essentially just a gray box, but there's actually 30 million dots in that. 30 million, it doesn't sound like it's a decent amount, but when you factor in there's over 300 million Americans, that might get washed out a little bit, and it doesn't become as big of a deal as some people say.
Monday at 10. Okay, y'all have a good one.
Walter Cronkite said, "The American healthcare system is neither healthy, caring, nor a system." These numbers cost a high price in the long run. 30 million Americans that need healthcare, right? You go and you get something done because you need it, you're going to pay an astronomical rate if you don't have insurance. And then you're going to be billed. This is one of the only first world countries where for seeking out medical attention, you very well could lose your car or house. So that starts to strike home, becomes a big deal. I was unaware before I did the research of how many uninsured Americans there were, or how big of a problem it really was. I've been relatively healthy. I'm 26. I've never really had any major surgeries or anything like that, But if all of a sudden, like a friend of mine that didn't have insurance, he had to have his appendix taken out, imagine how rough that probably was. We won't go into financial details. I also was unaware of the price of how much that costs.
Oh yeah, surgeries.
So the high cost of things, when you really break it down, seem to be a direct result of overcomplication, right? Being charged for numerous different things. 1 in 5 working age Americans with insurance, this is with insurance, encounter problems paying medical bills in the past year, which often leads to serious financial challenges in employment and lifestyle, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. So imagine you're just trying to get through life, trying to be successful and just live day to day, and all of a sudden it's likely, unfortunately, some point in your life you're going to deal with something that's going to take you to a hospital. You cut yourself at work, whatever. That it would be in a fantasy world, somebody else like at work would help you with that, but if not, that could really put you in a pickle that you didn't see coming. Among the uninsured, 53% reported problems paying medical bills. So if over half of the people can't afford their medical bills that don't have insurance, that's more than 15 million people. So now the debt starts to collect, and you can see how that would spiral out of control. It's hard to make a foot and get ahead in life if you have that debt lingering over you that is from something you really didn't gain much from, but put you back to where you started. Most people have heard about the issues in our country. You've probably seen on TV, the news, people trying to come up with different solutions. Most don't understand the full extent. I didn't until I started looking up, and I still wouldn't say that I do, but I have a better grasp now, I guess.
Right.
In addition, most people don't know about some of the issues driving up the prices, which seems to be the real problem. When we hear about these issues, hopefully none of us have had the problem ourselves or currently are dealing with that. But we all want health care. It's something that, you don't think about till you need, and then it becomes a huge problem. We don't have a right to health care. That's a misconception. A lot of people think that, as Americans, it's not part of the Constitution. However, it's reasonable to assume that you should have access to normal priced health care.
By the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, can we not attain the right to life if we cannot afford health care?
Health care, though, is provided by private companies, and you can't force the private companies to set. We'll get to that.
All right.
However, as prices become out of control, something has to be done. I realize that most health care is provided by private companies. Most Americans have insurance through their work. It's a private company, it's a private entity. In theory, they could do whatever they want. But part of the issue, it seems, comes from the fact that there's been a lot of limitations put on the insurance market. A lot of companies aren't allowed to cross certain boundaries. It's set up to where it sort of limits the extent the companies can compete with other companies, and being a country that's largely driven by capitalism, most of our financial success here comes from competition, wouldn't you say? So if you could have just a free market, an unlimited free market, where all these companies had the right to compete with one another, that's why a Honda Accord and its comparable car, for instance, a Kia or anything, they're within a respectable margin price-wise. One's not 100,000, the other's 10,000, because they're competing with one another. Some are better than others, some have a better reputation, so they can charge a bit more for the name. That's with everything. But that market that's keeping them around the same price point keeps them from getting out of control, because there are other options that people could resort to. If a Honda Accord was $100,000 and I said, well, you don't have to have the Honda, you could get the Toyota for $20,000. You would probably, unless you really love Honda, go that direction. That
Right.
seems reasonable. Well, if all the different companies had the right to compete insurance-wise, that would drive down prices, and that if one hospital offers a plan for a certain price point, the other might not be. You could compete, and that would help. By setting up a capitalist system, now I realize there's problems with everything. We could look at some of the things. A lot of European countries have privatized healthcare. I don't know if that is the best solution, because we are sort of a hands-off government, or we like that idea in this country.
I thought in the European countries the government took care of healthcare.
What'd you say?
I thought in European countries the government took care of healthcare.
Some do, yes, but not all. But a lot of those countries have financial issues. They have it's a very large cost, and to front that bill, it would be very difficult in this country because of the high costs. So if you would have to bring down the cost before that would be reasonable, especially since you throw in the fact that the U.S. is in such a massive amount of debt, which doesn't help anything. But if you brought the cost down to where they were a manageable rate, then you could potentially offer things like that, because the financial burden wouldn't be so huge. So nobody wants people to not have health care. Everybody wants to get medicine for their kids, and no one wants anybody to be injured or not be able to afford surgery. That's serious business. Nobody wants that. Getting there in a practical sense is the real issue. So what is the proper thing to do for someone like us that's standing out here looking? Realistically, it's probably contacting people like representatives. As small of a thing as that is, that's something you could do. And voting. Being a lot of young people don't seem to be as informed. So knowing about what's going on and what, keeping an eye on things so that you could make decisions, that, realizing that you have a say in what's going to happen down the road. That's a big part as well. I think a lot of people our age range aren't as informed as they should be, and I think one of the biggest things would just be knowing what's going on. Thank you.
Huzzah.
Not all right? Yeah.
8 seconds to spare. We got it.